Okay, awesome. All right, so welcome again once again. Like I said, we're going to be taking questions and answering them, and today's session is not going to be as long as the first one. So if you're watching this recording after now, there's no need to worry. Yeah, I'm just gonna kick right in. So the first person I'm seeing on my screen here is Adedayo Adetoro. That's the first person. So if you could unmute to ask your question, and then Ibube should get ready.
All right, thank you so much, sir. Thank you, sir. Good morning, everyone. So my
Hi.
question is actually, yeah, thank you, sir. Yeah, my question is like generally about the field of UI UX design. Like, okay, if you want to go into something, you ask questions like, okay, how long does it take for me to actually be something in this field? Okay, like, what does it take to actually like get that dream? Should we say dream job, or like how long does it take to actually get to be like people like you, okay, like that we look up to? Like, what are the things you have to put in place? How do you work like around your CV to build it up to get somewhere like people that will look up to you? That's my question. Thank you, sir.
Okay. 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 So one thing you need to keep in mind is that the timeline differs for everyone. The timeline differs for everyone. There are people that have been in the field way shorter than I've been in the field, and they've experienced or they've been opportunity to work in way bigger companies that I have. Right? There are people with 2 years experience that are working with Netflix, Spotify, and the rest. Right? So it's when it comes to how long it takes, it really differs. I can't tell you that, oh, it's going to take you 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, 1 year, 2 years, and then by that time you'll be here, you'll be there. No. The only thing I can tell you is that if you're able to dedicate as much time as possible to learning the right stuff, to understanding the basics. And I'm going back to the basics because everything about design stems from understanding the basics. If you already understand from the grassroots that design is not just about bringing shapes together, but actually about solving problem, then that realization will guide every design decision you make as you advance in your career. So when you're asking, even when you're asking clients question, you are asking questions because you want to solve problems. You are not asking questions because you want to make your designs final. No, you're asking questions because you believe that at the end of the day, it needs to solve the problem that it's been asked to solve. Right. So what is necessary right now? Or I mean, I wouldn't say that I was opportune to, get all the good advice I needed, you know, when I started, right? I had to do a lot of self-learning. I had to learn by myself. In fact, a lot of things that I know are self-taught, right? And probably that was what maybe made my own a little bit more strenuous because I didn't have anybody to guide me. I just had to start figuring things out. Okay, I'm trying these. Client is complaining. There's a mistake. I have to go and rework it, trying to find a solution. So I did a lot of self-learning, and I guess that slowed me down a bit, right? But the fact that you're here right now already gives you an edge because we're helping you to learn in a streamlined version. We're not allowing you to get distracted with the plenty things out there. So what you need now is to focus on the basics. And if you can dedicate a couple of months to understanding the basics, then it will make your advancements a lot easier. Some of you here will be lucky enough, and I said luck because yes, sometimes these things are all about luck, right? Some of you here will be lucky enough to get a role that would pay you very, very well, maybe 6 months after the training, maybe 3 months. Some of you will even get an extremely high paying jobs in a year or two, right? It's possible, but I'm not going to stand there and say every single person will get something after 2 years. No, at the end of the day, it really depends on how much work you put in, like how well you understand the basics, and yeah, how well you understand the basics and how much work you put in, right? Because once you understand and then you put in the work, you practice as much as you can, and then people start seeing your works, right? So another thing is that there are designers that don't necessarily post, they don't necessarily like worry about putting their works out there. Now, for those people, it could be because for me, for instance, the reason why I don't do that a lot is that a lot of the opportunities that I get are through referrals. Maybe I've worked with someone 2 years ago and somebody eventually reached out to them and they needed something, the person remembered me and then they reached out to me. Right? There are people like that. And there are designers that always put their work out there and that's how they get clients, that's how they get recognized. So you have to figure out what works for you, right? You can't. So after you've learned and you've practiced and you're ready, you know, and you're convinced that okay, I can try my hands on actual company work. I can actually try to get an internship role that will probably pay me, or I can apply for a junior level role, right? Once you've gotten that conviction, right? Sometimes or a lot of times you might actually have to start putting yourself out there first, advertising yourself, publishing the works that you've done, trying to help people understand that okay, this is who you are, this is what you do, right? And then from there you start getting traction, people start learning more about you, and then you'll be able to scale, right? And if you're lucky enough that you already have some people around you who needs your skill set right now, then it's going to be a little bit easier for you to land roles and opportunities because those people will just forward them to you, right? But don't let anybody tell you that, oh, after 3 months you'll be good. After six, the journey differs. Just focus on what's important. Build your skills, practice, reach out to people, get better. The focus should be around getting better. Once you're good, people will find you. And that's the truth. Do you get?
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, you're
Yes, sir.
welcome. You can put your hands
Yeah.
down now. Ibube,
All
it's your
right. I have
turn.
one more question, sir. Sorry, sir. Like the
Oh,
CV
okay.
part, like building of CV, like yeah, the part, sir.
Oh,
Like how do you
yeah.
prepare?
I think we offer something around learning to write CVs. I'll probably when you went through the course outlines, did you see anything on that like preparing great CVs?
Yes, I did, sir.
Yeah, I think you should apply for that. So that's true. It's good that you brought it up. We would also cover it. So everybody that wants to adjust their CVs or learn to write proper CVs should apply for that CV course so that the trainer or the tutor will be able to take you through. I wouldn't want to be talking about CVs now because that's actually out of the scope of this call. Right. But yes,
All
there's
right.
provision for that. Would always like teach you how to write good CVs so that you wouldn't miss out on any opportunities.
Yeah. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you, sir.
All right, you're welcome. Ibube, it's your turn. You can put down your answer, Dial.
Hi, thank you. Can you hear me very well?
Sure, your voice is clear. Go on.
Oh, okay, thank you. So my question is on AI. I want you to talk to us about AI and right now as designers, what we should have in mind as to how we can manipulate AI to improve our design process.
Okay, that's a very, very good question. But once again, it goes outside the scope of intro to design, right? We can always talk. And please, if there's any questions that you have that I'm telling you today that is outside the scope, you can always keep it at some point, maybe during when we have free time or after the program, we'll definitely get a chance to discuss. So we'll be able to talk about everything out of scope that we need to talk about, right? But bottom line is understanding how AI works is important because the world is advancing and everything is growing, even design is expanding, right? That's important, but I'm not going to be able to dive deep into that now because it's outside the scope. But just keep it, and at the end of the training, when we're discussing and then we just chatting, we can always talk about that. Does that sound good?
All right, thank you.
All right, you're welcome. Abraham is next. Can you unmute yourself? Abraham, you're muted. Okay, I guess we can go to the next person. Is it in favor? I'm sorry
Yes.
if I'm not pronouncing your name well.
Good afternoon, sir.
Hi, it's good afternoon. There's no need for the sir,
Okay.
please go on.
Okay. Good afternoon, Mr. Damilola. Thank you for your classes. Thank you for your classes and the lectures you've given. I kind of
Okay.
have I woke up this morning and I saw like 11 videos or more than on product design, Figma and all that. Are we supposed to watch every one of them? Because I know we're supposed to take the classes slowly, but at the same time, I know we're supposed to watch those videos. Are we supposed to watch them, or you're supposed to like give a guide on? Because I think everything is kind of like becoming too jam-packed for me
11?
being.
No, you shouldn't see
No, there were
11
a lot.
videos
There were a lot. There were a lot.
on your
And I
LMS.
know that. Yes. No. YouTube. On
YouTube,
YouTube, where
yeah.
yes.
So here's what you need to do. Of course, we have a lot of videos on YouTube, right? But I think you should go more with the links that have been provided in your LMS. So you notice that when we published the intro to design walkthrough that I did, we added the link to that on the LMS. And even though it's on YouTube, like the link on the LMS will direct you to the exact video you're supposed to watch on YouTube, right? If you decide that you want to go and start watching all the videos on YouTube, I mean, that's your discretion, but it might get very confusing and then overwhelming. So focus on the links, like every link that you need for every course, we would put it in the LMS. So only the ones that we have, only the ones that we share speaks to the level that we're on. So right now you notice that we gave you the link to the intro to Figma, intro to design video that I did. And then of course we added the link to the YouTube recording of the first Q&A session that we had. Those are the links that are necessary with the pace that we're moving with. So follow those links. Don't get distracted by YouTube.
Okay.
Do you get?
Thank
Yeah,
you.
don't get distracted by
Yeah.
YouTube. As we proceed, for every course that you're going to be taking, because this is DSN 100, for the other ones that you're going to be taking too, the videos that are requested or that you need to watch, the links are also going to be provided in your LMS under those particular course codes. So just follow your LMS. LMS contains everything that you need. Does that answer your question? Are you good?
Yes, it does. Thank you, sir.
All right, you're welcome. Andrew Chicks, I think you can go next. By the way, Abraham, when you're ready, be sure to unmute yourself and say something so that we know you're back. Andrew Chicks, you can go on.
Okay. Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Hi. Sure, your voice is clear. Go on.
Yeah. So my question goes like this. I'm a front-end developer, so I want to go into UI UX. I don't know, like, is it because I don't know whether it's just me, but I felt like I need to know the design aspect of, like, I need to understand design properly. So my question is how like is it like the level of importance for me to understand design? Like, how important is it for a front-end developer to understand design? Like, I know you have worked with so many devs, so I'm just asking, like, if it's really that important for, yes, for a front-end dev to understand design.
I would say it is. And the reason why I would say it is I'm sure you've probably worked with some some designers at some point, and then maybe they complain about one or two things that, oh, this is not how I want it to look. This is not looking the way I designed it, right? What causes this kind of backs and forth is one side not understanding how the other side works, right? So for you as a front-end dev, right, I think you in fact it's front-end devs that needs to work with designers more, because you are the ones that implement what has been designed. Back-end devs work on functionality, so the designers might not necessarily complain about them, but they complain a lot when it comes to the front end. So for you, for instance, I appreciate the fact that you're here trying to see how you can advance your skills and understand design for you to be a better front-end devs. And I would say yes, it's important that you understand how designers think and how they work. Do you get? So that when you're implementing designs and then some kind of conversations come up, you guys will be able to find a resolve amicably. Because sometimes, and I was telling the designers also in the first Q&A call that we had, sometimes it's also nice if designers also understand a little bit about how the front-end folks work, because then you would end up not designing things that are not feasible, like I said, there are a lot of designs out there, especially on Dribble and the likes, that implementing them is going to be a very serious problem. Like, they're not realistic, they're just fine. Right? So the more designers understand that, okay, these are things that are possible with code, these are things that are easy to achieve, these are things that are easy to achieve, but not necessarily, these are things that are possible to achieve, but not necessarily easy. The more they understand these things, the more they'll be able to design things that are more realistic. So if, for instance, I know that as a team, we have 4 weeks to work on a project, and I know that as a designer, I probably only have like maybe 1 week, 2 days. I'm just giving an example, maybe 1 week, 2 days to come up with a design. Because I understand that we have a short timeline as a team, and because I understand that we have just one front-end dev that's going to be helping, and because I understand how front-end, works, I will be able to come up with a design that I know that you'll be able to implement in that time frame. But if I don't understand, I will go into my own bubble and create something that is out of this world, and I'll be expecting you to squeeze yourself to try to deliver in that time frame, and that doesn't work. That's what happens where timelines are not being met and problems are happening. Do you get? And that's from the aspect of design. For you, for instance, the front end dev, right? When you understand the thinking behind how designers work, right? In fact, you yourself will be able to provide, guidance on what the designers should do so that you can solve the problem, right? Because really, when it comes to implementing, what happens sometimes is that when there is too much back and forth, everybody gets frustrated. You are angry because they are not giving you something that is realistic. They are angry because they are telling they're not implementing their work how they want it, and you're telling them that it's not possible. And then everybody's angry, nothing is being done, and then projects start suffering. But when you understand it, you can tell them, okay, you can give them a resolve like, oh, I understand that you put or you added this shadow here just so that this element can pop a little bit more. But the problem is, if we try to do this, that, it's going to affect this. So instead of going this way, why I suggest that instead of using maybe 2 layers of drop shadow for this, why not reduce it to one? Do you get? Or instead of having a drop shadow here, why not create a new section where this can be in so that we can still solve a problem of making it feasible without having to cause problem for development? Do you get? So that's the kind of
Yes.
angle that this stuff comes from. It helps you to resolve conflicts easily, right? Because I have to tell you, sometimes it's very, very hard for designers to detach from their design. And that's what all of us here have to learn. You need to be able to detach from your work and understand when
Yeah,
somebody is giving you feedback.
yeah. I also
Hello?
like why I'm here is because I was like I tried so much to understand the design phase because
Thinking.
that's where I normally have problem, like that design aspect. Yes.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah, so that's the thing. Like, I mean, it's nice that you're here. Like I said, as we walk through everything we're going to be talking to you, the understanding, the thinking behind everything, the reason why designers move the way they do, right? And also maybe through this design course that you're taking, you'll be able to see some reasons why they maybe have disagreed with you on one or two things in the past, right? And also, I'm hoping that you'll be able to learn how to address complaints that come up. Right. So instead of also being defensive on your end, you can now be able to tell them that, see, I understand what you're doing. Like, I can see it, but here is the problem. Right. Because if you attend programs from that aspect, it's easier to solve it than when you're telling them that why are you cooking beans? Why are you why are you designing something that does not make sense? I mean, that will cause problem for
yeah.
everybody.
The first step is to understand. The first step is to
Yes,
understand. Thank you.
yes, definitely understanding. Definitely understanding. Right. So you're welcome. Elizabeth, you're next.
Okay. Good afternoon.
Hi, sorry, before you continue, I'm so sorry for interrupting you. Fola, I can see that you're on this call. If you can hear me, can you unmute yourself and say something? I need you to assist me. Fola, if you can hear me, can you unmute?
Hi, good afternoon.
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you very much for joining. Can you assist me with something? I need you to help me like check the chats and help me take note of questions. Would it be possible?
Okay, all right then.
Thank you very much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Yes, I think it was Elizabeth that was talking. Am I right?
Yes, that was me.
Yes, please go on. Sorry for the interruption.
Yeah, that's okay. Good afternoon. Thank
Hi,
you,
hi.
Dami. Yes, good afternoon. Thank you for the lecture so far.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I don't know. I think my question is a little going ahead of myself, but I'll still ask anyway because I'm quite curious about it. So UI UX, does it have, I know there are areas of specialization, so to speak, but is it only centered around mobile apps and websites? Does it have anything to do with maybe designing for regular products like let's say I don't know, I'm trying to think of one now. But let's just say any other field. Does it have to be, is it only concerned with digital products? What about physical products? Yeah, I think that's the question. So yes.
Okay. Well, yes, it's a little bit like broad, but you should just keep it at the back of your mind that every single product you're using today, be it digital or physical, they all pass through the design phase, right? So the reason why we are putting a lot of emphasis on understanding the basics of design is also so that you can interpret some issues that you might face with products, even outside digital design. So an example would be, I mean, we understand that when you're talking about websites, web app, mobile apps, those are digital products, right? You access them through your devices and everything. But the mobile phone that you're using was also designed. It was tested, it was QA'd. Like everything we're talking about and more was done in the designing and the production of the mobile phones, your TVs, like the cars you drive, the mattresses you sleep on, everything, has a design phase, right? But of course, the level of advancement that is necessary for different kinds of products differs. For this particular course that we're, talking about, we are only focusing on digital products, your websites, your mobile apps, your landing pages, stuff like that. We're not going outside, but keep it at the back of your mind that the principles also apply. I'm not saying these are the only principles that apply, but every single principle that we've been talking about here also applies. Because you would notice that if you were on the first call, when I was giving examples of bad UX, I showed, the design of the old ketchup bottle and how new ones look. And then I showed the design of the Apple Magic Mouse, that was the talk of the town when it came, but or most people have ported from the Apple Magic Mouse. Why? Just because the design has a flaw where the charging port is underneath and not in front. So if people want to charge, they have to actually wait. Like if the battery of the mouse is low, they have to actually wait for it to charge before they can use it. That's terrible, right? And that's probably because somebody did not ask one question. Okay, what happens when somebody's battery is low and they are trying to charge, but they cannot wait? Like, how do we account for that problem? Do you get somebody did not ask that question? That's why they encounter that problem. So the principles that you're learning can be applied outside digital products. So if at some point you decide that, what, I don't want to design digital products anymore, and I want to go into maybe I want to join a company that produces mobile phones, right? I mean, you still need the basics. Do you understand?
Yes, I do. Thank you very much.
All right, you're welcome. Annie, you're next.
Before you, Tammy,
Yeah, I can hear you.
yeah, before you take additional question from those that are raising up their hand, a particular person I've been sending the same message multiple times, the same
Okay,
question.
what's that?
It said between front and back end, which of these skills will align more with my skill as a designer?
The person is like that question is out of scope, but I think the obvious answer, I'm just gonna answer that. The obvious answer is front end, because that's implementing. Yeah, once you design, then you have to replicate that design using code. So you can, if you want to choose one, it will be front end. Are we good?
But in a way, right? At the end of the day, as a designer, you still need to understand the implementation of backend as well in terms of functionality, especially if you're designing stuff that is that involves product that involves a lot of data related stuff, because
Yeah, definitely.
yeah, so at the end of the day, as a
Definitely.
designer, you still get to work with both back end and front end guys. So you don't necessarily need to have the coding skill, but you need to have the understanding of how your design relates to both the front end and the back end, basically. I think
Yeah.
that's what's more important. But
And I
if you
think
now
the
say,
person
okay,
is
you want to get a coding skill, you can now decide to go for front end, right? But
exactly. That's what I
as a
meant.
designer, you still need to have understanding of how the front end and the back end works with design, because sometimes the back end structure is what would determine how some of your UX process will go.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, I mean, like we've been saying since we started, you need to understand how the developers work. You don't have to learn everything. Like you just need to understand the basics of how they work so that you can design products that are not going to flop. But if you want to choose like I'm assuming that someone wants to know if you're going to add one more, like if I want to learn the skill, which one should I look at? And of course, the obvious answer to that would probably be the front end. Okay, Annie, you can go. Thank you very much, Fala.
Okay, good afternoon, Dami.
All right,
Thank
good
you.
afternoon.
Yes. Please, okay, first of all, everything is new to me. So
Okay.
the first assignment, I listened to the recording over and over again. And I still couldn't find where you talked about the UI design principle and all of that. So it was a bit difficult for me to do the assignment because I wasn't sure if we had to read other things, or maybe you said it and because it's new to me, I wasn't able to pick. And when I'm in most of these classes and they're talking about everything, it's almost like they're flying all over my head. I don't know if I'm supposed to go somewhere and read some things or before coming for the class.
So we try to provide you with everything you need before we up on the calls like this. Before we up on the first Q&A call, for instance, I had shared a video like talking about basically giving an intro to what we're talking about to the course. So the questions in the assignment are structured. They were taken literally from everything we've talked about. So if you go back to the first video and then you watch it again, you see where I broke down that okay, UI is all about focuses more on how the product looks, the aesthetics of the product, and then UX is about how people feel, like the usability, how the product works, how people feel when they're using the product. And then we spent quite a number of, minutes or something talking about examples, breaking it down. All right. So every single one of the questions in that assignment is like we've covered it. Basically, we have actually covered it. All right. So I would
speaking particularly to the UI design principle, the consistency, hierarchy, visual balance, and all of that. I wasn't sure I understood that, or I wasn't sure I saw that in the intro.
It was actually, and we talked about it a little bit more in the QA, in the first QA call. So I understand that call was quite long, but I think that you should maybe just dedicate some time to listen through and then hear us talk, because when we're having the discussion, I remember talking about the fact that it's after you've sorted out the UX part of things that UI comes into place, where you worry about typography, the consistency of your elements, your colors, your images. I'm pretty sure. I mean, I can remember vividly that we said those things, right? So yeah, we mentioned them. It was not feasible for me to put everything in those slides because it would get very, very overwhelming. But when we were discussing, I was sure to break things down and explain. Yeah. So just find some time. Do you get to listen through the first Q&A session and try to answer the questions to the best of your abilities. As the classes go on, we would definitely dive dive deeper into these things. And thank God for Olajimi is here. By next week, she's also going to be taking you through, intro to design. Intro to Figma. Also talking about the reason why some of these tools are important and where they come in handy. So all these things that you're worried about now, you will definitely get more clarity about them then. What you can do right now is to the best of your abilities, according to what you understand right now, just answer the questions, answer the ones that you know well, and then we'll see you in the next coming course. How's that?
Okay, but this also means that if I don't answer it properly, I might actually fail, right?
Okay, that is a very, very strong question. So you are not. I'm trying to remember like the way the questions are said. The questions that really like talk about things like typography and all, they are not a lot. Like they are really, really not a lot. I can remember because I said these questions myself. So don't worry, answer the questions very well, and you should be fine. Just answer the questions, and you should be
Okay,
fine.
thank you. Thank
All
you.
right, you're welcome. Is it Ahmad? Yeah, Ahmad, you are next. If you can unmute and ask your question.
Okay, good afternoon.
Hi, good afternoon.
Can you hear me?
Sure, I can. Your voice is clear.
All right. So my question is not that hard though, but I just want to know. I'm a little bit into design, a little bit of graphics. So I've worked with some clients, like I know how to do that part, but I see that in UI UX design, like you work with a lot of people, right? You work with the front end and the back end, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I want to understand, like, is there like, am I supposed to like change my approach since like the people I'm working with here a lot or something like that? Or should I just stick to what I understand about the basics of design already? Or is there an approach I'm supposed to change while in UI UX design?
If you understand the basics, right, there's no reason for you to get confused or start wondering. Because in as much as design trends are changing, right, the basics are the same. The basic of any or the bottom line idea or bottom line reason of any product that you're building has to be to solve problems, right? Not just creating something fine. Of course, to solve problem in a beautiful kind of way, but bottom line is still to solve problem, right? And the laws are pretty basic. The laws don't change. Nobody's going to come tomorrow and tell you that, oh, typography don't matter. No, since day one, typography matters and it will always keep, being as important, right?
Yeah.
So there is what you need to understand is that the approaches you take, like how you address problems when it comes to digital products, is different from how you approach products when you're designing graphics. Do you get? The basics are the same. The approaches have to be different. So if for your regular, maybe logo design or banner design, you don't necessarily have to have multiple calls with your clients. Maybe they just tell you that, oh, we need a flyer for this, and you're like, oh, flyers. Yeah, I know how flyers are. And then you work on a flyer. If that is the approach that you take for graphics design, you cannot take that approach for UX and UI design. Because at the end of the day, so you can see that it's not like I'm saying the basics are changing. The basics are still the same, but how you would approach it. If you need one meeting for graphics design, you probably need like 10 to tackle UX and UI problems properly. Yeah. So study the basics. The basics are the same. Once you understand the basic, it's how you now address, things that differs. And of course, at some point in this design track that you're on, we're also going to talk about UX and UI deliverables, right? The things that you need to do, if you're trying to tackle the UX aspect of a problem, things that UX consists of, and the things that UI consists of. We're going to talk about all those things. Right? We're going to cover every single one of those things, so don't worry about it. But as far as basics are concerned, the basics of design are the same. Like sizes, the consistency, the thought behind everything that you're making, everything is the same. It doesn't change.
Okay, I understand.
All right. Thank you very much. I'm not sure Abraham is back yet, so I think we'll just go to.
Yeah, I'm back.
Oh, okay. Welcome back. Finally.
Sorry,
You can put your
that's
hands down, Ahmed.
mic.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
I see.
Okay, my question is this, just like Ahmed have said, I am also a graphics designer, but I work primarily with Corel Draw
Mm-hmm.
and a and a little bit of a Photoshop. But now my question is this, how long? Because I have watched several videos about this Figma app, and I don't know if it's just me or there are other persons who are really seeing it a bit difficult. Because
Mm-hmm.
yes, and I actually wish you have resources like other resources that would help us or make it easier for us to get in line with the Figma app. And my other question is this, how long would it take before, or are we going to be divided into teams? Like, so we'll get to work with ourselves, get conversant with this, work with the workspace, probably as product designers up, or then you would combine us with teammates from other tracks if we can get to work with ourselves just to be used to the whole working space.
Okay. So I'm going to answer the first one. The second one is kind of going out of scope. So let me deal with the first one first. Um, Figma is Figma is not going to be very, very difficult for you to learn at this point, like right now, because I mean, like I said, dear Folajami is on the call and she'll be the one to take you through intro to Figma next week. All right. So during the video, like she's going to record the video, of course, and then there's going to be Q&A and you guys can ask questions. She will take you through everything you need to understand. So she would explain every single tool that you're seeing on that Figma interface to you and tell you what every single one does. So contrary to how it probably was for you before, where you had to try to learn or watch videos to learn on your own, right? You would have somebody who is doing it in front of you live, right? And someone who is able to answer questions as you have them. You don't have to start wondering about anything. So even if it has been a problem for you to learn before, I'm pretty confident that by next week, when you go through the sessions with Fola, you are going to understand everything you need to know. So don't be too worried about Figma. And it's really not so. So if as long as you've also used the likes of Photoshop and all, I don't think it will be very, very hard for you to grasp it this time, right? I think the knowledge of how the interface in Photoshop works is also going to help you to some extent, right? So don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. We're going to take you through Figma properly, teaching you the tools, helping you understand it, and then it's from there that we'll now go on to other things that or the other courses that you need to learn. So you have nothing to worry about, really. And for the second one, you're going too far. Don't worry. We'll get to the point where you do projects. I know. Don't worry about it right now. When that time comes, we'll inform you of how everything will go. All right. Focus on learning. Just focus on learning the things that we're trying to teach you for now. Okay. Are we good? Okay. I would take that
Yes.
as a yes.
Yes, sir. Yes, I'm good, sir. Thank you.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. Is this Keto? Am I pronouncing it right? If you can hear me, you're next. And if the person is not available, I'm thinking, okay, hi, good afternoon.
Hello, good afternoon.
Hi, good afternoon. We can hear you.
Thank you for the lecture.
You're welcome.
My question is not actually about the design, but then I've not been able to join Slack. I've not been sent the link, so I'm totally missing out on something. The
Okay,
link, I wasn't able to participate because I was not on Slack.
okay. So this is not the right place to discuss this. You probably have to reach out maybe on Twitter so that we can address that. Because it should be on Slack by now. So if you're not on Slack, I mean,
I've made the contact from LMS and it has not been addressed.
Yeah, we'll probably check that out after now. We'll check it out after now. Yeah, we'll check it out after now. Don't worry. Adekunle, you're next.
Hello, good afternoon, sir.
This is your sir. Hi, good afternoon.
Sincerely, I was almost moving off, sir. But let me quickly ask my question. I have just basically two questions, and they both centers on UI UX, sir.
Okay,
The
go
first,
on.
the first question is the UX part of the UI UX. Okay, sorry, the UI, is it something that comes before the UX, or the UI is actually part of the UX that cannot be separated from each other? Or we have to deal with the UI first before we move on to the UX? That is the first one. And the second question is, I know UX has to do with lots of researches, and I think this is one aspect that scares a lot of designers. Is there any way, like a process, a guide to achieving the research aspect of it, that will not overwhelm anyone while doing that? Because I know, maybe particularly as for me, it scares me a lot.
Okay, to answer the second one first, we are going to talk about like I said, we're going to cover UX deliverables. Every single thing you need to understand that falls under UX. We're going to cover that at some point, in your course of learning. So you don't have to worry about it now. Gates. We're going to take you through, okay, how to do proper research, what it entails, what you should note, stuff like that. You're going to learn all of that. So don't worry about that. For the first question, I've answered this question before. I'm just going to summarize it again now because we're running out of time. UI and UX are equally as important. A good product a product cannot be good if it only has good UX and does not have good UI. And the same thing goes, a product cannot be good, like you can't call a product like an excellent product if it only pays attention to UI and doesn't pay attention to UX. So both of them are equally as important. Though whenever you are approaching a design process, of course, the first aspect that you have to figure out is the UX aspect, because it's once you figured out how a product is going to work and you've been able to do your research, find out what are the things that we need to do, what are the things that the user would want to do, and then you're able to use those information to form a structure and create a wireframe that guides, that guides your research, that guides your process, where you're able to say, okay, based on this structure that we built, they will be able to go from this point to this point to this point to achieve the process that they want to achieve. You're saying that the UX part of things is what comes first. So it's once you figured out everything that you can now start building on that structure, but the structure comes first. Yeah, which is why the first step or the first phase has to be the UX aspect. Is once you've cleared out the UX deliverables that you now start adding, right? And UX does not end. Right? Don't think about it that, oh, you do UX and then you do UI and that. It does not end. There are chances that even after a product has been built, you need to go back to reiterate, make changes, learn from what users are saying, learn from their feedback. So the process does not end. Like UX process does not end, but it's where you always start from. It's always a starting point. After you figured out UX, you now come and build up on it and, create your lo-fi, create your hi-fi, add pictures, proper colors, your proper typography, font sizes, stuff like that. Once you're done with all that, and of course, the product can move on to the next phase. But, UX does not end. Just keep that back of your mind. And yes, UX comes before UI, but both of them are equally as important. Does that answer your question?
Yes, sir.
Awesome. Thank you very much. We have to. It's now that some of you are knowing that you have questions. All right. Adebimbo, you're next. No, sorry, Adebimpe, you're next. Then Shiba should get ready. And then Kende is coming after Shiba. And then Sunday is the last question that we have. So Adebimpe, you can go.
Good afternoon.
Hi. Good afternoon.
Yeah, so my apologies if you've responded to this question 1,000 times. There's still me was still a little bit confused.
Sorry,
Okay.
I'm struggling to hear you. What did you say?
I said my apologies if you've responded to this particular question 1,000 times.
Okay.
There's still me who's a little bit confused. So it's about the CV uploading. Is this the right place to ask that question?
Not really, no.
Not really. Okay.
Yeah, what you can do is drop a question on Slack and maybe tag me and we'll address it there.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, not a DM, please. Like drop it in the general
Yeah.
design channel. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Shiba, you're next.
Good afternoon.
Hi, good afternoon. By the way, did I pronounce it very well? Is it Shiba or Sheba?
Anyone, they are both correct.
Okay, cool.
Okay,
Go on.
so I just want to ask, like, where does copywriting comes in UI UX? I was so shocked when I saw it when I saw it in the, can you explain just like a summary of copywriting in UI UX, and is it necessary? For my understanding of copywriting, I think it has to do with writing, captivating pages, this to sell a product. So how does that feature in UI UX?
Okay. Yeah, that's fine. Like you said, I've answered it already, but since we have just a few questions left, I think we can spare some minutes. Okay, so the reason why copywriting is important is because your copy, what people read or what your product says, also adds to the experiences the customers have. And then when I was explaining this, I talked about the Abeg app back in the days. Did you remember Abeg when it was recently launched? When it was newly launched, rather?
Yeah.
Exactly. You notice that when they were pushing the products and even in the app, the onboarding screens and everything, they were using Pigeon. Do you get like all these urgent Suki, get urgent Suki from your friend easily, stuff from your parties easily, stuff like that. So that is where language comes in, right? That's what copy is, UX copy. Basically, it's more about the language that your app is speaking, the language that your product is speaking. So you can't tell me now that maybe you're trying to market something to millennials, right? And then in your app, you're using slangs that Gen Zs came up with, slangs that Gen Zs resonate with, something like that they like saying. And you would agree with me, but sometimes some of these things does not make sense to millennials because they're like, what is the meaning of this one now? But imagine that that's the kind of language they're using in your product. There's a high chance that that product is going to fail when it comes to millennials because that's not how we talk. It's not for them. And in the same way, you cannot say you're building a product for Gen Zs and you're using the language of millennials or old people. Let's call it that, right? It's not going to, they're not going to resonate with it. They're not going to vibe with it, right? Which is why you would notice that even when it comes to newspapers, how newspapers used to be printed back in the days. Millennials are very comfortable holding those gigantic pieces of papers in their hands and reading it, right? While Gen Zs would rather go to blog websites or blogging sites to read. And you would notice very, very clearly that the way content is structured on newspapers is different from how it's structured in blogs, because blogs are, there's better hierarchy, like the fonts are a little bit more readable and stuff like that. And of course, there are things around that would spice up your reading. Well, compared to newspaper that these guys are accustomed to. So that's the same thing when it comes to copyright. You need to be able to take control of the language that your app is speaking. You need to be able to take control of how your app speaks to people, which is why we say that as designers, it's important that you are able to come up with copy, because sometimes what differentiates your app from other people would be just the copy, the language, right? I give an instance while we're talking that there are times where there are applications that whenever you want to move from one point to another, they use the CTA. CTA means call to action, by the way, it's a button. The text in that button says proceed. Now, everybody knows that proceed means to continue, right? Everybody knows that, obviously. But of course, a lot of people also know that continue, also feel that continue is simpler than proceed. Because even people that didn't go to school, they say continue. Do you get? But how many illiterate people or maybe laymen would you see when they're talking that they will say, okay, now proceed? Are you seeing the difference? So sometimes if you understand that, oh, it's important for me to make this thing as accessible, as simple to understand as possible, and you understand, and you place a high priority on the kind of language that your app speaks, then you'll be able to easily come up with copies that help people resonate with your app properly. So that's one of the reasons why it's important. It's so that you can also use your language, do you understand, to improve experiences. You don't want people to be reading through your app and they don't understand they're saying big jargons, big technical words. Nobody wants that, right? And even and this is another point, even when you're making even when you're trying to come up with languages, you're trying to simplify things for your app. But it's also important to note that being simple alone is not enough, right? You also need to be creative, right? Sometimes when it comes to copy, simple can be boring. It's very, very possible for simple to be boring. So the reason why it's also important for you to know that you need to come up with unique ways to talk about the app, unique ways to break it down so that it's simple enough to understand, but it's also catchy. It's cool. I mean, when you hear Nike's slogan, for instance, just do it, just do it. It's simple, but if you sit down to think deeply about it, wow, basically means that anything I want to do, I shouldn't just sit on it, I should act. I mean, what's the worst that could happen? What's the worst that anybody would tell me? Do you get, it's simple, just do it, it's just 3 words. But if you sit down, you can form a whole speech on top of it, right? So US copy, that's a copy. That's a form of copy, right? So when you're writing copy for your products, it's important to note that it helps form part of the journey. If your copy is good, right, people would resonate with you more. People would understand your app more. People will be able to perform more actions because they won't have to be asking themselves, oh, what does this word mean? Oh, why are they using big grammar here? Oh, this button is too technical for me. If I click it, what's supposed to happen? Do you understand that angle?
Yeah.
Yeah,
All
so
right.
that's why it's important. All right,
Thank you.
Fala, do you want to add to what I was saying, or you have a question on your own?
So I wanted to add to the stuff regarding copy and
Please carry
more
on.
like a summary that the essence of copy to a designer is for effective communication of what
Exactly.
your product does. That's the summary
Exactly.
about it, and that's why it's important. And that's why I think lately in trainings we encourage people to use actual copies than using the Ipson
Lower the
simple
sum. Yeah.
placeholders and all. And yeah, you might not be a copywriter, but as a designer, you should also be able to come up with meaningful things to let people understand that, oh, this is what you're trying to say with this design. So at the end of the day, a copywriter will now still scrutinize it and do a proper UX copywriting, but at least your initial placeholder
Exactly.
that you put there communicate to certain level for the copywriter to know that, okay, this is the direction of the communication you want to go for.
Exactly. And yeah, I was saying this, and thank you very much for that. I was saying this also in the initial Q&A call that we had, that sometimes even when you have these skills, you might not even have to, you probably will never have to stress yourself to use them, right? Because there are times where companies have brought me on projects, and then, I mean, I like asking questions. I ask them, okay, do you have someone who's going to provide the copy for this product? I ask. And then a lot of times they tell me, oh, yes, somebody for the team will work with you and give you all the copy that you need. I mean, that's fine. We can always refine together, but now they are doing the majority of the work when it comes to copy. And there are times where they will tell you that they have, but that's a lie, they don't. So at the end of the day, you have to, in fact, they will now start, when you start asking them for copy, they will now start telling you something like, what do you think we should write here? Do you think this particular sentence makes sense? At the end of the day, you might have to work with them to come up with copies for the entire product. Right. So instead of you now being in that position and then you're telling them that, oh, I'm not a copywriter, we have to hire a copywriter. Why not already have that skill so that if it comes, if the need arises, you would use it. And if the need doesn't arise, you have it anyways. Do you understand? Okay, I would take that as a yes. Okay, so Kende, you're next, and then
I think, no, before you take the next person that is raising up there, I think you should answer some questions there. So to say that you should pick from comment as well. So I think someone asked a question that apart from Figma, what other tool is necessary in design process?
I mean, there are a lot of tools. there are a lot of tools because design, especially when it comes to design, there are different things that you need to do. In fact, something as basic as removing background from pictures, right? Because as a designer, there will definitely be points where you need to use pictures to transfer backgrounds. You might not find them online. You have to remove backgrounds for yourself. So if you know how to use Photoshop to achieve something like this, that's fine, right? But we are not going to stand there and tell you that, oh, the only thing that you need to master is Figma. There are chances that you need to learn. For instance, I use Figma, but I also know how to use XD, right? I know how to use CorelDRAW. I know how to use. There's this new tool that I downloaded recently called Linear. It just helps me with SVG files. So it's really to your discretion, right? You learn tools that you need. Figma has the basics to cover a lot of aspects when it comes to designing digital products. So you wouldn't really have so much to worry about. And the funny thing is that there are lots of plugins that can help you achieve these things that you need other tools for. Do you get? So on one hand, Figma has so much. In fact, you can't even you might not even be able to learn how to know all the plugins that Figma has, right? But if you want to learn other tools that you think are important for you to be able to achieve certain things, then feel free to carry on to learn. You shouldn't restrict yourself to Figma alone. Do you understand? And this is to Abraham. He was the one that asked the question. Okay, Fala, is there any other question?
I think that's the question there.
Okay. All right. I guess I can let. Okay, somebody is asking, does it mean we have to learn copywriting along? Can you hear me? Hello? Okay. Can you guys still
Somebody
hear
said
me?
that.
Okay. Somebody saying,
that
do we still have to learn copywriting along with UI UX? That's what we're saying. It's a part of it. Like, think about it like a part of it. Don't think about it that, oh, you have to start stressing yourself to learn. Do you get? Just see, whenever you're working on something, imagine that you're working on the mobile app, right? Or maybe you're working on the website, the landing page or something like that. And then maybe it's about fitness, it's for a gym, right? And then you write something for you're trying to come up with a dummy for the hero. Of course, we know that it's not belonging to a company. You just want it as one of the projects that you've worked on. Instead of putting lorem ipsum in that hero section, right? What we are saying is instead of putting lorem ipsum, just write something real, something relatable, something like want to get fit, well, best bet. Like it could be things that rhyme. Do you get? But what we are saying is that in as much as you're thinking about best ways to come up with products that people love, we should also remember that part of the things that we need to figure out is also the communication, the language. Because imagine that you're seeing a product that is very, very fine, but you don't understand the language. Imagine that it's showing you Chinese. You can't read it. It means that you can't use it. So the same thing applies to when you're using a product and then they are not communicating properly. You're not feeling it. You're not feeling what they are saying. Chances are you just drop it for something else that makes more sense to you, later on. Right? So it's not about, oh, you're going to carry one kind of encyclopedia and you're trying to learn everything inside. No, that's not the point. But think about UX copywriting as part of the UX process. Because funny enough, by the time you land in companies and then you're working with, complete UX teams and everything, these are the part of things that the team would have to work on, right? So if we're saying that, and UX copy also applies to CTAs. So if there's a banking app, for instance, and a button is supposed to tell people that, okay, this is where you transfer money, right? How do we write it? Do we just say transfer? Or do we say click here to transfer? Or do we say transfer to friend? Or do we even use transfer? Do we even use send instead? Send to friend. Like, which one is more relatable? Which one would communicate better? So that's the angle that we're coming from. It's all about thinking about it still from the user's point of view. Like, which word will make more sense to them? Which sentence would make more sense to them? Which sentence would be easier for them to understand? So that's the angle that we're coming from. It's not complicated, really. It's not. But it's a part of the process. It's a part of your UX process. It's very, very important. It's very, very important. As long as you keep practicing, keep coming up with things, coming up with ideas, you'll get better at it. And of course, later on in the program would also cover, like I said, we'll cover UX deliverables, things I need to understand under the UX aspect of things. So we'll talk about these things a little bit further. You don't have to worry about it. But yes, it's equally as important. Okay, before we take more questions from the chat, I think we should attend to KD and Sunday first, and then we can use the ones in the chat to round up, because we've taken more than 1 hour already. Kendi, you can go next.
Okay, good afternoon.
Hi, good afternoon.
Can you hear me? Okay, so
Sure.
when I wanted to choose this course, I had this because I was a bit confused. So I had a discussion with someone. So it was of the opinion that AI is replacing UI UX. So how true is that? I really want to know. That is of no use. That AI is already replacing it. Then my second question is this. To be a good UI UX designer, is it very key to have a good communication skill? So that's all.
Okay, let's take the second one first. To be a good UX and UI designer, I would say yes, it's important to have a good communication skill. And here are some examples why. You would need to communicate throughout the process. You're either communicating with your stakeholder, that's the person who owns the product, or you're communicating with your team, the people that you're working with, or you're communicating with the users when you're conducting research and gathering feedback, right? But at every single point in your process, you're communicating with somebody one way or the other. So if you're not good at communication, like, it's going to constitute a problem for you at some point, right? Because I mean, at the start of every process, you need to talk to the stakeholder, like the owner of the product or whoever is giving you the brief. By the way, the brief is a document containing everything regarding the product that you're about to work on, you're about to start working on, right? And sometimes the brief can be very, very long. Like, there's plenty of information that you can get carried away with. And sometimes some clients can have very, very scanty briefs that does not contain enough information. Now it's going to be left to you to be able to ask them the right questions so you can make the brief a little bit more a little bit thicker, like add more information so that you can have proper information to work with, right? So if you don't know how to communicate with people, how to ask questions, how to listen, because listening is also a form of communication. If you don't know how to do stuff like that, you will struggle. You struggle with getting them to tell you, because sometimes clients don't know exactly what they want. They have an idea. They can tell you, a client can come and tell you, oh, this is what we're trying to do. We're trying to solve this problem. They will tell you in such a way that you'll be like, wow. And then the moment you ask them, okay, so how do we approach this? Then they'll start stammering. I was thinking that we can, like, it can get very frustrating. So you need to be able to communicate properly, ask the right question. You need to be able to deal with people, because sometimes some clients can be rude. Some team members can be rude, right? Nobody prays for that, but there's a chance that you wouldn't always end up with people that know how to talk, people that are respectful. So how do you deal with clients that when you ask them questions, they tell you that, what's the meaning of this? What do you know? Why are you asking me this question? Like, what am I paying you for? All right. There are clients that can, get as crazy as that. The question is, when things like that happen, do you just tell them, you know what, screw this, I'm out? Or you are able to find the right words to get them to at least give you the information that you want so that you can go and work and deliver their work to them, right? So communication is very, very important, especially also when you're talking to your team members, the devs. Sometimes the implementation might not come out, firstly, the way you want it to, right? So are you now going to, get so pissed that you are not start telling your devs that they're stupid, they don't know what they are? That team is not going to last. The moment you guys start probably abusing each other, there's not going to be progress, right? Or are you the kind of person that will now be able to be like, okay, wow, well done. I can see that you guys have gone very, very far. One thing though, I'm not sure that this part is exactly how I intended it to be. So maybe you didn't get what I was trying to say earlier. Let me just make a prototype for you and show you how I expect it to look, so that when you see it, you'll be able to replicate that. Like, that's a better approach than telling them that, why are you implementing rubbish? Right? So communication is important. Also, when you're trying to get feedback from your users, there are some people that want to get feedback from users and they just say, what do you think about the app? Like, why are you asking me? In their mind, it might be like, why are you asking me that question? Like, what's your business? But if you now tell them something like, oh, thank you so much for taking the time to explore our app. In order for us to improve the app to better serve you, or in order for us to improve the experience of the app so that you enjoy it further, could you please spare 2 minutes to answer these questions to tell us about how your experience was like? I mean, that sounds longer, right? But it's more human, like to resonate with them better. Communication, it's important, right? And of course, UX copy that we're talking about is also about communication. So communication is very, very important. You can't joke with it. Even when you're trying to land projects, like when you're trying to negotiate deals, maybe a project is supposed to cost maybe ₦1 million, and the client is telling you that they will pay ₦100,000. You immediately tell them that they are stupid for offering you ₦100,000, or you tell them that, oh, I see. Well, I wouldn't want us to up on an agreement that would affect either of us. So I don't think we'll be able to work on this project together. I hope you're able to find somebody that can. I mean, I'm literally telling you that the money that you're offering me is when I can't work with you, but I'm saying it in a way that is not disrespectful to you. So that next time that you have a job that you have ₦1 million for, you will call me. But if you immediately offer me ₦100,000 and I insult you to your face, even if you have a ₦2 million job, you never come back. So communication is important in every aspect for you to grow, for you to make progress, for you to build very, very good products. All right. I hope that answers your question.
The first question, you are yet to answer that.
Yeah, I hope that
Concerning
answers. I hope that
yes,
answers the
yes,
second question.
yes.
Okay. For the first question, it's a little bit outside the scope, right? But just keep this at the back of your mind that if you provide good value, you would be indispensable. If you provide good value, you'll be indispensable. That's one. And two, the moment you stop learning, that's when you start being at risk to the likes of AI that is threatening jobs. The funny thing is that AI is not necessarily, but in fact, AI is not even a bad thing. AI is good. I can't count the number of progress I've been able to make just by leveraging ChatGPT and some other AI tools, right? They help to solve problems. They can even help you make your skills better. So don't think about them as threats. They are not here to threaten you. Then people that see them as threats are people that they are not offering enough, and they know that they are not offering enough. So any small thing, they start feeling threatened. But when you know that you're offering value and you're always learning, and then you're able to jump on tools, these AI tools, these AI platforms that are coming up, they are tools. What do you do with tools? You learn how to use them so that you can get better. So it's not like AI, something will come and they will tell you that this stuff can generate landing pages, and you'll be like, landing pages is what I design for a living, or this thing will take my job. No. The question is, how can I use this tool, or how can I learn to use this tool to build landing pages faster? So that if I'm taking maybe 2 weeks to work on a project before, I cannot deliver it in one. Do you get? That's the angle you should be thinking about it from. So don't be too worried about AI. Of course, you should take note of them, learn how to use them, but you should be more focused about advancing your skills, getting better at your craft, always honing your skills. That's what's important. Okay, I think I've spent a lot of time on that. I hope that answers your question, by the way, Kennedy.
Yes, thanks.
Awesome, you're welcome. Okay, for our last question, Sunday, you can go.
Hi, good afternoon.
Hi.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, my question is, I'm a graphic designer, and when I have a project, I tend to work with the client directly. So most times I understand, I get what they want to do. So most times I can present a questionnaire for them to fill, so I know like how to work on the project. But now, as a UI UX designer, since I am not the only one working on the product, we still have other developers. You have front end, you have other guys like that. Is it proper for me to like ask the client to connect me with other guys so we can work together to avoid delay, or I can just do my thing and submit? What if there's a problem after? They have to come back to me again, and by that time I'm even busy to attend to the work. So is it proper for me to like connect with them, or I present other guys that I know that we can work on the project together? So that I just want to ask.
A lot of times when projects come in, there is a team to handle them. So you would notice that, I mean, if there are some of us here that have handled maybe 1 or 2 gigs in the past, maybe that are not complete beginners, what happens is that it's either a project manager is the one that reaches out to you, and the project manager is the one that pulls the teams together. Maybe they already have access to a front-end dev, to a back-end dev, they have direct access to the stakeholder, and then they are looking for a designer, and then they reach out to you, right? Is that a product design and product manager is the person that reaches out to you, or is the owner of the company himself, him or herself, that reaches out to you? But in any aspect, a lot of times there is already a team on ground for you to join, right? They don't just sometimes they just recruit designers and then they don't have anybody else. But sometimes there's already a team. So the first question you need to ask every time is if there's a team dedicated to the project yet. And if the answer to that question is yes, then by all means, you have every right to be introduced to that team, because every single one of you has to work together. It's only when there's no team that it's just you. Maybe the person just wants the design to be done so that they can pitch it to somebody, right? In that case, then of course you're working alone because there's no other person that is involved in the project at that time. And then you can ask them all the questions that they want, and then they will answer you directly. You work on it and you deliver it to them. But as long as there's a team, as long as the person gives you an idea that, oh, there's a front end there, even if the front end there is working remotely and you are not, you have every right to connect with that person. And yes, you should always strive to connect, even if the person is not talking about the other team members. Ask questions. Oh, okay. Do we have this? Do we have that? Oh, can you please connect me to this person? Can we please get on a Slack channel? Can you please have a WhatsApp group? Whatever works, but you need to communicate with the team, because at the end of the day, they are the ones that will implement this thing. So they will be able to chip in, right? One thing that helps me in my development sometimes, I mentioned that I develop a workflow, right? One thing that helps me is the fact that whenever we're having meetings, right, every single one of the team is present. Do you get? So even if party A is saying, oh, let's implement something, and party B knows that that thing is not possible, party B will talk that, oh, Alpha, this thing that you're saying we should implement is going to cause trouble when we get to this point, so we should try something else. So that way, the entire team agrees on what is possible, what is feasible, and then that's what they run with. But if you don't connect to the team, you'll not be able to get this inside. So yes, you definitely have to connect with your team. But if there's no team and you're working directly with the stakeholder, of course, try to get him to set up a team. Like, oh, okay, are we going to be working with front-end devs? Oh, when do you want to bring them in? I would like to be able to work with them from scratch. And if they say they're not bringing them in yet, fine, then you don't have a choice. You have to do the job. Like, you have to do your design by yourself, right? But yeah, you have every right to connect with your team. Every right to do so. Fola,
Thank
you want
you.
to chip in?
Yeah, but not regarding his question, just the final question that is in the chat. Since you said that this one was the last question. So the guy is talking about how he's concerned about the fact that he has no knowledge about design, understanding of design, how he'll be able to survive in the UI UX space as a designer and stuff like that. So I just wanted to chip in that um you're just all of you are just learning. It's like you going to school and you're in 100 level and you're already worrying about how you survive
Final
when
year
you get to 100
projects.
level, or you're already worrying about how you survive when you get to NYSC. It's baby steps. It's
Yeah.
baby steps. I would advise that your most of the questions that some of you are asking is probably because you're beginning to overthink a lot of things. So I would advise you have an open mind. Don't try to overthink. Just learn as it goes. Don't allow too much noise from whatever you're seeing on social media worry you. Everybody has their own step. So right now, your current step should be you're trying to learn, you're trying to understand, you're trying to perfect your skill as a designer. The moment you know all of that, the moment you know how to do all of those things, every other thing starts to fall into places. By the time you understand all the basics, you know how to do this design thing, you get to know that, okay, this time I want to focus on physical product design or digital product design, or I want to focus on webflow development and every other aspect that is related to design. But right now, don't overthink, just focus on you are trying to learn as a designer. So just see it as you trying to just finish 100 levels successfully. Just have that mindset that that is what you're trying to do now. you're trying to finish your under level. Ignore the other levels, ignore the other progress. Just focus on, yeah, you just want to learn and don't overthink it. Don't try and see whether you survive the whole thing or anything. As long as you know you're willing to learn, just just focus on, learning first before focusing on how to use what you've learned. Because you need to know it before you can use it. So just focus on knowing it first. That's all I'll say.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I think that's the last of it. Right. And sorry, hold on. Okay, and the thing is, like I've been saying since we started, once you understand the basics, you'll be fine. Don't think too far. We are here to guide you through this process. So with every course that we're taking you on, we'll give you everything you need to understand, in the basics so that you can be able to build up on that. So for those of you that are still asking questions about collaboration, about what you do, like when you get to this point, that's far. Like it's far. Don't worry about it. We'll get there. Don't worry about trying to also start learning front end, trying to also start. You'll get there. Right now, just understand the basics that we're trying to teach you. Like even when next week starts and we start talking about Figma, don't immediately start thinking how you can make things move and clash and all those crazy animations I used to see on Twitter or Dribble. Like, don't go nuts on it yet. Just understand how to use the basic. You need to be able to understand what tools you use to solve particular problems. That's why knowing the basics matters, because there are times where you see a product or a project or a prototype or a design and you'll be able to say that, oh, okay, I think I think they morphed a shape to be able to form these. I think this is a combination of a square and a triangle. And the moment when you understand the basics, you're able to break designs apart. And when you can easily break design apart, then you'll be able to come up with yours from scratch. So don't think too broad, don't think too far, don't get too carried away. And don't let anybody make you feel like, oh, you have a long way to go. We were all learners at some point, right? Anybody can be a great designer, really. Just focus on the craft, keep practicing, keep getting better, and you'll be fine. Okay. So I guess that's the end. That's the end. Yeah, I guess that's the end of the questions that we had. Thank you very much. We ended up spending 1 hour 30 minutes. Nice. Thank you very much for your time, everyone. We'll definitely also share the link to this recording on your LMS so that you can watch it also, so that whoever is there you can also watch. But yeah, that's it. It was nice having you guys this week. By the way, you now have 2 assignments on your LMS. The first one that is due tomorrow, that is due today, and then the second one is due tomorrow. We uploaded the second one, I think, as of yesterday, like I said. So please be sure to check your LMS, answer the questions to the best of your knowledge, and then and of course, see you next week. Okay, I'm not taking questions again. Okay, fine. Oh, no, can you unmute yourself? You have 1 minute.
I just wanted to ask, are the lectures mandatory? Like if we keep missing them or, not attend, depending on the time, are they mandatory
Yes,
to
they
attend?
are.
Like we have to go and check in or come on
No, if you're
the
unable
Zoom
to attend, that's fine. You can always watch the recorded sessions afterwards.
Okay. Are
But you should at least.
Are they credited though? Are we getting credit for attending though or not?
No, you don't get credits for attending, but I mean, watching these videos would help you be able to answer your assignment questions correctly. And you need to be able to answer them well for you to scale through the program.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
All right, you're welcome. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much for the assistant, Falajemi. Really means a lot. We'll see you guys next week. No, Falajemi will be seeing you guys next week. I'm pretty sure she's excited to have you already. All right. Have a nice rest of the day, everyone.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Thank you.